Yo, what up? So in this episode, we talk about Keyforge, the new exciting game from Fantasy Flight, but we call it Keystone because we're really smart. So please forgive us, let's just jump right into this episode. This week, we have our corpses slide into camp, toot our horns as we undercut each other, learn the true power of the sun, see how many times we can say the word game, and get all sorts of hyped up about the future. This and much, much more on this episode of the Rolling Doubles podcast. Welcome to Rolling Doubles, a podcast about two board game enthusiasts who have never met and roll the dice on friendship. I'm Jacob. I scare my wife and kids, Russell.
And I don't scare my wife and dog, Ryan Schneider.
I highly recommend it. It's hilarious every single time.
Your videos are so adorable. And we don't mean this in a bad way, but like you post Instagram videos of you scaring your wife and scaring your kids in a very, very nice way. And it's the funniest thing in the world.
Well, it took time to get to that point. Early on in our marriage, probably about 9 or 10 years ago, I scared my wife so bad that she jumped to and ran to the corner of the room and started crying.
Oh, what?
So I had to stop for like at least a couple years.
Oh, no.
And then like a year ago, I started recording me startling her. And once she realized that there was a video of her doing it, she totally changed her attitude and loved it.
So when you scared her the first time, was it still the whole,
No, it was, she's on the computer with her back towards me, and I come into the room, and this is like in a basement apartment, like our first really small, crappy apartment, and there's a mirror up in front of her, so I had to squat down and crawl towards her, and she had headphones on, and I grab her from below, and I just scream, and I just yell, and it was the funniest thing I've ever done. Like, I peaked at that point in my life, and she hated it.
That's bad. That's naughty. That's also really funny when I think about it right now.
It's really funny. I'm a terrible person. And now for my kids, my oldest doesn't like it that much, but my youngest, he thinks it's the funniest thing. So it's great.
And this isn't a common occurrence, though. This is like a special, maybe after they were naughty, kind of, you get back at them. No?
It's like every couple of days. It's as often as possible, and they try and do it to me. So, and sometimes my oldest, he's 6 right now, he'll wake up without us knowing, and he'll get all the way downstairs, but we can't hear him, and he'll just scream and run in the room and scare the crap out of us.
Holy crap.
And it's really great.
What family ties you guys have.
Yeah.
My dog, my dog just usually like will go nuts at another dog when you use the window. That's when he kind of scares me. Like just her barking in general. Like he'll be laying down, he'll shoot up and he'll go, bah! And you're like, why? What did you hear? Is there a ghost that has now entered this room?
I have now peed myself.
Right.
Was it worth it?
Yeah, it's like I am now up. It's 4:30 in the morning, and I am now up for the day because you decided to bark at a truck that came by. Just man,
it's always funny.
Yeah, the love of tiny ones, right? And
Exactly.
our wives who put up with it. Yeah, put up with it. I was like, put up with us.
Put up with us.
Yeah.
Anyway, hope everything is going well with you. I've heard you've played some board games lately. What have you been playing?
Yeah, maybe. I may play some board games.
Or maybe not. I don't know.
If I didn't, then this wouldn't really make a really good podcast. It's
just me talking to myself.
That's all right. I would still listen to you.
I mean, I'm my favorite topic to talk about,
That's
so
true.
I would get it.
We've had this discussion before. But yes, anyways, I do want to talk about a fun board game, and this fun board game is called Summit, the board game. Connor McGooey is the designer, Jordan Danielson is the illustrator, and it is published by Inside Out Games, which is self-published as well. So Summit, the board game, is a game about climbing a mountain. And you're like, okay, what's fun about climbing a mountain? There's a lot of fun to be had in this game and climbing a mountain. I'll tell you that much. So let's get into it. In this game, you play as one of 6 mountaineers. You can play this game solo, or you can play this game cooperatively, or you can play this game competitively. I'm not going to talk about the competitive part of this game. I haven't actually tried it. I'm going to speak towards the cooperative side, which I really enjoy a lot. I'll just spoil that right now. What you're going to do is you're going to pick one of these different people, and you're then going to pick the gear that you have. And the gear is all, again, what you would expect if you were to go like hiking up Mount Fuji or hiking up a mountain, where you'll have, depending on, the toughness of the mountain. And we're presuming at this point you are actually climbing like a Mount Everest, not a Mount Fuji, excuse me, like Mount Everest, right? A very kind of dangerous mountain. So you're going to be geared to the teeth in terms of being able to want to make sure that you survive. What's interesting in that when you start picking and choosing the different types of equipment that you're going to do is that all of that has like a rating system. So if you pick like something heavy, you have this weight gauge that goes up, I don't know how many different notches or whatever. And if you go up like 5 or 4 or 3 notches, you end up passing over this icon saying that you have to move your foot icon over to the right, which means that if you go like 6 movement speed, the more you carry, the less amount of speed you're going to move. So it's this really cool system of being able to have like this acrylic cube that you move over, and as soon as you pass over the icon, it kind of says, okay, now that you've passed it over to the right, make sure to move your foot over to the right, which is very, thematic. That's really cool. And you have to carry food, you have to carry oxygen as well too, and so the more food and oxygen you carry, the heavier that also burdens you, which affects your movement. So you end up having to decide like, okay, am I going to maybe not carry as much food, or maybe it's not as much oxygen, but have more room to be able to carry more equipment for me to be able to go up. So you kind of have to make that decision, which is not necessary for your first game. The game actually provides you with default loadouts for every character that you play, which each of them is actually very, not different, but they're different enough. So it is a tad bit asymmetric for each mountaineer that you play as. So you make your mountain character, and you set up this game board, and the game board is huge, right? It is like you go out there, and it's just like it's massive. It's like you are really kind of like starting at this, the base of this mountain. You're working your way up to the summit, and everything is laid out nicely. The graphic design is superb. I enjoy it a lot. There's a lot to talk about with the graphic design, but I'm just going to skip through it because I just kind of want to get into the meat potatoes of the game, which is actually climbing this mountain. And climbing this mountain is so simple. Your turns go super fast. You can get in a game of Summit with probably 2 or 3 people in about an hour. And it flows really well. It's extremely thematic, and there's something else that it's going to do that I'm going to talk about here after I get done explaining everything. So you have 3 tiles, and each tiles has a rope that goes into a direction, and they have knots. And for each knot that you have in this rope is considered a movement. So what you do is you start off at base camp, which you can decide if you want it harder, you move it more down the game board. If you want it easier, you move up the game board. And then you have like a weather track, which is important, and you have like some items and Sherpas, etc., etc. And what you're doing is you're essentially moving your movement limit and crossing each specific knot. And when you get to an edge of a tile, and these tiles are actually triangles, you get to play one of the 3 different tiles from your hand out onto the board and be able to continue your movement. There's 3 different types of tiles. You have your regular brown knots, which are the best kind of tile you can have, which is, there isn't too many of them. Nothing happens. They're just really nice and cool. You have blue tiles, which means that there are much more knots on them. It's considered like slippery. So takes longer and more movement for you to actually clear that tile. And then you have yellow rope or yeller tiles, which actually denotes that it's like thin air. So you have to actually spend an oxygen in order to enter into that tile. So once you get there, you can kind of hang out there as long as you want. It's just as if you want to move into that yellow tile, you have to spend an oxygen. So you do that, and then you end your turn. And then, there's other things you can do on your turn. You can move, you can regain health, you can regain cards. There's you can try to heal yourself if you gain like a ill effect or something like that. There's like stuff that you can do. You can work with your Sherpa to get more food and more oxygen, what have you. Then you have to roll these 2 chunky dice. These 2 chunky dice are very Arkham-esque in terms of like something's going to happen and it's most likely going to be bad. So you roll this weather die and you can either have it be clear, sunny skies, light snow, heavy snow, or a blizzard. So the blizzard is like the worst thing that can happen. Essentially, there's this track that goes up that if you hit like, I don't know, 16 times or whatever, like you lose, but it's this kind of ever-growing track of being like, okay, a blizzard hits, lose a health or lose a food. Another blizzard hits, lose a oxygen and a food, and it just kind of gets worse and worse and worse the more you roll this die. And then for each winter or each snowflake that you roll, you have to lose a health. Food. The health icons and the food icons kind of look the same. I apologize. Or how it's laid out on this track kind of looks a little bit of the same, but health and food are very much similar in that case. So that happens, and you have to all players end up having to have to take that. So if you roll, it affects everybody on the table cooperatively. And then you have to roll this blue die, which is the event deck die. And the event deck is this good or bad thing that can happen where it's like, oh, you found this item, or oh, this thing happens, or oh, you have like this cave in, or you are trying to like climb down the mountain and all of a sudden it collapsed and you can't move it down anymore. And so just all these weird different events can happen. And what's really cool is that every single event card, which is like, I don't know how many there was. I think there's at least 300 in terms of like all different kinds of scenarios, are all unique. There are no repetition of cards. They all do like their own unique thing, which I think is really cool. So the objective is, again, to get up to the top of the mountain, plant your flag, and get all the way down. And one person needs to be able to do that. And then there's like alternate scoring you can do. So like, for instance, if everybody survives, you get to score like points, and then how much health and things that you have left over is points. So you kind of are graded in terms of like, completing, going to the top and going back down. You're graded. That's essentially the game. Yeah.
Okay. If you fail, what is that representing? Like, are you dead?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah. You're frozen. You're frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, and I was wondering because I've read like a favorite book of mine is Into Thin Air, which is about an Everest expedition. And so I'm just wondering if that's, because that's intense. Like that adds some great thematic elements to it. It sounds like. Now, if you, and so speaking towards the co-op side of it, how similar do you think the competitive side to it? Do you know anything about that? Did you flip through those rules or anything?
I've watched reviews of the co-op side to it. This is only from what I've heard in speculation, but I heard it tends to be a little chaotic. So it just tends to kind of be a lot more like everything. You kind of just have to go into it knowing that when it comes to strategize, it's a very much like take that and more, because there are definite things you can do to like really mess up people's day in competitive. So I think you just kind of have to go at it knowing that you're going to get so far, and then someone's just going to be like, nope. And then you're going to like slide down, and it's just going to be kind of a whirlwind of a game.
I see. Okay.
So I'm not too terribly interested in it, because honestly, I think the cooperative side of it is just a fantastic time. And I don't really feel like I, at this time, need to play competitive.
Right.
I think there's still a great game just in the cooperative side of things, personally.
Well, and it seems a bit more thematic if you're doing it cooperatively, like working as a team, like an expedition team, right? Trying to work together to get up this. It's not like, I'm going to get up there first. It's harder for you because I'm going to stab you in the jugular type thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's not really the teamwork you're looking for climbing up a mountain.
Well, and I also want to say, too, that while the theme of, like, you quote unquote die in the game, there isn't like that type of violence or that kind of despair that is depicted in the game, right? So it's very much like you lose. You can always say that you die, right? But it's not like you get stabbed and you lose some health. I think the worst thing is like looters come and steal some of your stuff. That's probably about as dark as the game gets as far as I'm concerned. I think everything else, thematically fits what would be really the case if you were a mountaineer trying to summon a mountain, honestly. So here's what I really like about Summit the board game. So the turns actually, so when I talk about turns going really fast, they do go really fast. There isn't too much I think you really need to pay attention for, because you have 3 tiles in your hand. You can kind of think about what's going to happen, but honestly, it's very quick. You're going really quick onto the board, especially with 2 players. You're really, I think, doing it really quickly. But what's really awesome is that with each turn that you take, there is definitely a story that happens with each time you play this game cooperatively. So let me talk to you about the last time I played this game with my friend Peter. We played this game. We got it set up. I was able to really get into the rules very quick, which actually is another big plus to the game. It is not an extremely hard game to teach. It is extremely easy to teach. So you get in, you start playing, and he and I were like, okay, we need to work together. We start climbing the same ropes, and there's the co-op mechanism is that if you land on the same knot as another player, you actually bypass them and continue your movement, which is kind of the game saying, hey, you're helping each other out. It's just you basically taking your friend and pushing him up space. So that's really cool. So we end up getting to the top, like no problem. And so I start making my descent. And then I have an event that caused a collapse, which my route was completely like torn down. You had to flip over the tile. There was no way for me to be able to go down this specific route. And then I got frostbite. So that ruined my movement. So I was very much like, okay, I need, I got this. I'm fine. I just need to, heal my frostbite, and I need to, I'll follow you. So I told him to go along, and my friend Peter goes ahead and he, creates his trail down or whatever. And he has relatively no problems, no issues. But for me, I had to take my turn to roll dice to see if I was cured of frostbite. And for 3 turns, I just couldn't kick it. Like, I just had this severe case of frostbite. And there's also this timer track. So for each time that it goes me, Peter, me, it goes myself, Peter, comes back to me, time advances 1 hour. So you start at like 6 a.m. And when it gets to like, 8, 9, 10 p.m., your movement is cut in half. So if you could normally move 6 movement, you would then be cut to 3 movement. So it's getting later and later and later. I can't heal my frostbite. And Peter's like making his way down. He's like, do you want me to come up there? And I'm like, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. I can heal myself. I can do all these sort of things, whatever. And so I finally cure my frostbite, and I finally like heal myself, and then just like, I start running out of food. And so for each time that you can't spend a food, you can't spend an oxygen, you lose a life. And every time you lose life, you don't move as fast. So it got to the point where it was at nighttime, and I could only move like 2 spaces.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm like, just slowly, I'm like halfway down the mountain. Peter's already down at base camp having like a hot chocolate, right? and he's kind of like, should I? It's like, is there something I can do? And I'm like, it's like, we're both gonna lose. Like I'm kind of a goner at this point, but I'm just playing it out. And so what ended up happening is I got lucky, and I found in an event card, it was like, if you have a Sherpa that isn't carrying anything for you, draw an item card and put it in his sack. And it was a sled. And the sled allowed me to do my movement, but then also allowed me to go 4 extra movement. And when you did that, you had to roll a die. And if you rolled like the sunshine, nothing happened. If you rolled a light snow, you dealt 1 damage, 2 damage, and the blizzard was like 3 damage. I ended up making it down 1 space before the base camp, and I rolled. I rolled enough to have myself 1 HP.
Oh my gosh.
1 HP. And then there was
mangled almost corpse rolls into camp.
Yeah, there's just this like snowball coming down camp. And I'm basically coming 1 knot before base camp, and then a blizzard hits, and I had to spend an oxygen and a food. And originally what ended up happening was I died. I ended up paying my food in life, and then I couldn't pay the oxygen and I died. But what ended up happening is there was a oxygen token that I had found earlier as I was making my descent, and I was able to spend that to be able to be healthy enough to spend my next turn to move onto the base camp and win. And both Peter and I were very just happy that's
incredible.
It's just this great story that unfolded of finding the sled that my Sherpa found, and then I'm just literally making it to base camp. It was a fantastic it was just a fantastic story to tell.
I mean, is it considered winning if you have to amputate all your limbs anyway?
I'm still alive. I'm still alive.
All right.
I could be a spokesperson for those that want to be able to climb this mountain and be like, don't, please don't.
Don't. This is a bad idea. That sounds amazing. I love when games can tell stories like that and you have those experiences. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I would say that's I would definitely say that this is has those Arkham horror toughness elements, just encapsulated within a different theme. Some really great graphic design. The illustration, I think, is going to be hit or miss for some people. The illustrations for the people are very ghostly, which is kind of cool aesthetically, but also at the same time I can sometimes not really fit well, I think, with the entirety of the things. But I think in general, all the production quality is top notch. These guys, Inside Out, I met as well too. They're all a great group of people. Gorus Maximus is coming out. I'm really looking forward to if they have an expansion to this game outside of Yeti. So they came with a mini expansion called Yeti, where there's a Yeti that's roaming the mountain that might try to come and eat you. I haven't tried it yet, but I think I really want to try it. Comes with a couple extra player boards. So in all, if you can find it, help these guys out. I think if you like those cooperative types of games like I do, you're really going to enjoy the easiness and the story it tells. It's such a good game.
Oh, that's so cool. Is this originally a Kickstarter?
Yep.
It was? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was a Kickstarter. Yep.
Oh, good for them. That's awesome. That sounds exciting. That is Summit the Board Game by Inside Out Games. That's awesome. So one game I've been playing is actually a Kickstarter as well, and it finally arrived a couple weeks ago. This is Container, the 10th Anniversary Jumbo Edition. Now, this is a pretty polarizing game, but I'm not going to, well, I might talk about that stuff that is polarizing, but essentially what this game is it is an economic game where the players are controlling the economy 100%. It's designed by France Beno Delange, Thomas Ewart, and Kevin Nesbitt, and it's published by Mercury Games. So it's 10 years ago. So I guess the original came out in probably 2007 or 2008, because I think this was Kickstarted last year. Anyway, some backstory. This is a game that I heard about a lot when I first got into board games, but it was hard to find. But it just looked super, super interesting. And back when it first came out, you had small boats with actually, small physical containers you put onto the boats. But they brought out this 10th anniversary and they made it giant, which is something that I totally love. And so when I saw it coming on Kickstarter, I was very excited. And I honestly didn't know a lot about it. I knew that people really liked it. I knew that it was an economy game and that the players were kind of in control of everything about the economy. Essentially what you're doing in this game is you are buying and selling containers. This is one of those games where you're like, this game is amazing. The theme is you're buying and selling containers. So it's just not this very exciting theme, but it's the gameplay that just makes it such a great and rich experience. So you have containers that you are creating in a factory, and you're selling these containers at a specific price. I think it's 1 through 6, selling those containers for other players to purchase and put on their harbor stores. And you are only allowed to buy containers from other people's harbor stores. So it's this weird flow of creating containers that end up on other people's harbors, but then you want to ultimately get containers on an international island, which represents, I guess, selling your goods just around the world. But you don't have direct control over which containers you produce to get onto the island. You have to purchase containers for other people to buy, for them to send to the island. So what you end up doing is you're trying to sell the goods at a price that you think people will purchase them at. And then people will buy them for maybe, $1 to $6, which I guess represents millions of dollars. But then when you buy them, you're trying to sell them for a profit, and that profit could maybe only be $1 or $2. So it's not a lot of profit. And so you're trying to balance this economy. But here's the thing, like, it's not that difficult to get into. The first time we played it, I think it maybe took me half an hour to teach the rules. But after that, it's taken me 15, 20 minutes to teach the rules. And I'm bringing this game out to groups that I didn't think would really enjoy it. It's just a very interesting, dry themed game, but with such amazing mechanisms that creates a lot of interest. So my game group, they loved it. We played 5 players with them, and they really loved it. Have some friends, my wife's sister and her boyfriend came over to play it, and I brought it out to them. I was like, look, let's play either a heavier game, or I think the other game I brought up was like Dragon Castle or something like that, which we talked about last episode. And so I brought 2 of those games out, and they went for that game. It was like, great, let's just see how it goes. Let's see how it's received. And they loved it as well. It was just a great experience. Now, here's the thing with this game. As rich and as amazing as this gameplay is, and I hate saying things like this, it's probably one of the ugliest games I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's just not... and that hurts me to say it because it's such a great game, and that doesn't really make me hesitate bringing it out. But the ships themselves are amazing, amazing quality. They could be used as a murder weapon. Like, that's how good of quality they are. Mm-hmm. And then the small containers that go on the boats, also fantastic as well. But the graphic design on the player boards, like the art of the harbors and the island itself, it's weird because this is not a cheap game, right? You're going to pay $100 for this game easily. And it's just one of those games where if you're paying that kind of money, there are kind of expectations that come along with that price. Right. And I know that there's a lot of frustration out there about a game like this. That's the market for this game, or the demographic might be leaning towards individuals who want more, or how should I put this? Who care more about the gameplay rather than the components themselves, and so they don't really need a jumbo version of this game, right? This game could have easily been made for $50, and I totally get that concern. But here's the thing. This game is so fun to play because of those giant ships and containers. Like, there is really this great experience of sailing around these ships, and you're moving them around the board to the island, to people's harbors. You know, like, everywhere that isn't a board is considered the ocean, and so you're moving the boats around there, and it's just great. I'm really happy that they chose to do the jumbo version of this game, and I'm sure I would have liked it if they did a normal size one, but there's just something about that. Like the ships are 7 inches long, and they are hefty, and it's just so hefty. So good. Hefty ships. I don't know where that was going. But this is, I don't know. Do you have a chance to play this at all? Do you know anyone who has this game? Do you have this game?
Nope. No, I don't. All I know is that if I'm ever gonna make a game, I know that there just needs to be some sort of tactile, like, small person-esque miniature that you can just go exactly. Or just go toot toot, here comes the boat into the harbor.
Exactly.
No, I know how much I think it is for you, and I think for many others as well, to be able to have these cargo ships have this weight and tactileness to them that makes the decisions that you're having literally have this weight to them, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I had no idea this game existed until Shut Up and Sit Down did the review on it. And I watched the review in whole, and I liked it. And they pretty much, I think your reviews and theirs are pretty much the same in terms of, I think, what they think of the game. They really like the game. The graphic design they didn't care for, which again I would agree for. So I would say that you guys are very much in similar the same type of conclusion. Yeah.
I mean, the components themselves, like the cardboard is thick, like, and it's great. It's just visually, it's just hard to, like, I don't know. But it's one of those where the gameplay totally outweighs that criticism I have. I don't know. It would be really fun. if they did change it, would it change my experience? If they made it different art, I don't know.
Well, yeah, and that's really what I wanted to ask you next was what kind of theme or what could you? I mean, as a graphic designer yourself, how would you make this game more visually appealing to someone like yourself, a hobbyist gamer, which is about essentially, shipping goods to and fro an island and maintaining an economy? Like, is it kind of making it more wacky? Is it just making it sharper, making it more realistic? What is it that you feel could bring this game up from, let's say, a 7 or an 8 to a 9 or a 10?
So honestly, the theme I don't really have a concern about. It's how the theme is executed. The theme I think is great. Like, I don't mind the theme at all. It's just kind of how it's executed. So the board themselves, the art on it is blurry. It's not even sharp. Like, it's a little pixelated.
Okay, so quality issues.
Exactly.
Okay.
But then there's no connection between the style of the graphic design on top of the illustrations.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how they created the illustrations. Like, are they using Photoshop? Are they using hand painted stuff and scanning them in? I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
I can't identify the style or how it was created. I don't know. It's just this weird disconnect I have about understanding how it's created. And maybe I could be like, you know what? I get why they made this decision or why they made this look like this. So it's easier to communicate to the player about what's happening. But no, it just doesn't look good. Now, it's functional, 100% functional. It's easy to teach the game using the graphic design, but the art itself just does not connect to that graphic design.
Yeah.
If you think of like Fantasy Flight games, and I always go to them for this kind of idea of pristine graphic design with illustration where they just blend together. The graphic design supports the illustration and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
In this, we have poor graphic design competing with poor artwork. And I feel it kind of like there's a reason I'm not a game reviewer, because I hate saying these things about games, but this is kind of a big deal with this one because it is a very expensive game, to the point where I don't know what I would do if Mercury decides to put out another game on Kickstarter. I just don't know. The only reason I did this one is because of its history, of its past. I don't know.
And so the open-ended market for this game, which is that, open-ended economy too, was that I'm just going to quickly reiterate again that wasn't anything that your game group found to be any complicated. That wasn't a good sentence, but you're saying that it went over fairly well, that people were able to understand that, hey, you're going to have to set your own prices, and that didn't lead to confusion with anybody, right? Everybody kind of seemed to understand like what was going on and what they needed to do in order to be able to get their goods purchased, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, actually, that's a good question, because that's actually a concern I had originally, because I'm not that bright of a person. I don't know anything about economics. I don't really follow financial stuff at all. So I was like, oh man, I hope this is still kind of in my constraints of being able to play. And here's what's great about it. And so there are 5 different colors of containers, and you produce specific colors and you put the price down. And there are squares on your board numbered 2 through 6. Or 2 through 5. I think it's 2 through 6. And you put the colors on what you want to sell them for. So someone can purchase them and be like, okay, I bought these for 2. I'm now going to put them in my harbor store, which is also just a bunch of squares with number squares 2 through 6, and be like, okay, I bought this for $2. I'm going to put it on $3 and on $4 and make a profit. Let's say I do that with a purple container.
Right.
Someone else can take a purple container and be like, well, he's selling it for 3. I'm going to undercut him. I'm going to sell it for 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of that idea of like, oh, that's how much you're selling it for? I'll go 1 less so people will come and buy it from me.
Right.
So it creates this weird like supply and demand. And endgame scoring is everyone has a section on the international island. And scoring comes down to if you have a variety of containers, and each color of container is worth a different amount to each player, which is super interesting. There's a card that tells you how much each container is worth, and that's secret, but it is different for every player. And you get more points if you have one of each color of container. And so there is a purpose to get multiple colors of containers.
Cool.
So yeah, it's really easy to pick up. It flows super well. It of course it takes kind of a round to understand the flow of things because it is a bit unique how you get containers from your factories to the international island. But overall, it's not difficult and it makes sense and it's really easy to just pick up and play.
That's cool. Yeah, I definitely would love to give this game a shot, but it definitely falls in that category of would love to play, but do not care to own type of games. So, yeah.
I get that.
Cool. Thank you for sharing Container, the ship sailing cargo game
Jumbo Edition
by Mercury Games.
Oh, that's a good preview of our musical episode next time. So a big convention just happened, one that I never attended.
GenCon, baby!
GenCon! There's the musical episode again. This is something that... So I got into board games in the month of July in 2012.
That's specific.
It was very specific, but I remember that first Gen Con and how just glued to social media I was when it was going on. And then every year after that, it's the convention I would follow the most. Origins, there are some releases, but it's not a bunch of releases. I just remember the excitement of that first one where I think, Netrunner was coming out, and that was kind of the big thing for me, and I was very excited about that. Anyway, I'm just excited about Gen Con, about the games that are coming out, and I want to discuss some of the highlights we saw on social media. Neither of us were there, which is fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's fine. We convince ourselves of. And so in this segment, let's just go back and forth and talk about games that interest us, things that we kind of saw on social media that kind of stood out to us and why it excites us. Let's start with you.
Yeah. The first game I want to talk about is a game called Everdell. Everdell is a game by, is it Starling Games?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so as the Monday hit this week, we start seeing the hashtag GenCon hauls coming out. And I am able to take a look at everybody's hauls that are literally at least a minimum a suitcase. It's people buy so much and it makes me so happy because I get to be able to see what people are interested in and what they picked up and what have you. And I swear Everdell has been in the majority of all these different pictures that I've seen. And I think for really good reason because I think the production levels, the illustration, everything on the front cover of this game looks A+.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Have you heard or seen much about Everdell?
So I was super close to backing it. Starling Games is a rebrand of Game Salute. Yeah.
Ooh,
of Game
really?
Salute. Yeah.
Oh,
so there's
that dropped.
exactly.
The stock plummeted just a tiny bit for me.
Exactly. But it almost seems like they've redeemed themselves with this one.
Mm-hmm.
The collector's edition, which I think is what people are picking up, just looks beautiful. The components are amazing. Ultimately, I think it's just a card game. I don't know a lot about the gameplay. I don't really do well with card games. I don't like reading a bunch of text on cards.
Yeah.
That's kind of something that kind of is a downside for me. But it just looks beautiful. Honestly, I've heard it has excellent gameplay as well. And maybe the rebrand to Starling is working, and maybe they have changed their ways just because I've heard so many bad stories about Game Salute through Kickstarter. And so it's not one that I'll probably pick up, but I think it does look fantastic.
Yeah, doesn't it also have a 3D board?
Yeah. So it's a board with, there's a tree sticking out of one side that you put a deck of cards onto, I believe. And then the components, there's wood and other components that look cool.
Yeah, and really too, I've seen I think snippets or just little blips of it in social media, and then this year I've literally seen everybody buy it. So like I just said, from a face value, just looking at it in terms of what it's presenting out the door, yeah, I would definitely say if I see it on the shelf, I'm gonna definitely take a look at it. Really want to play it. Everdell by Starling Games.
That's cool. For me, there's an expansion that's coming up for the Grizzled from Simon. And this is a game that I have not played a lot, but I really enjoyed it. And the people I've played it with really enjoyed it. And I love the concept. This brings in the idea of a campaign, but not just a campaign, but fully painted miniatures that represent your character. And it's in the style of the art, which is that those French artists. I wish I remember their names. I do not remember. One of them.
It's
Anyway.
a very famous, I think, French cartoonist that was killed
Yeah.
because of what he was in a very political moment at the time that game was coming out. That was a big thing a couple of years ago, is that
Yeah.
French artist had died, and so that was like one of the last pieces that he had done. So Grizzle has been doing really well, I think, for what type of game it is in a
It's not.
CMON type of
Yeah.
area. Yeah, doing really well.
It's a small box. It's a heavy game. It's a heavy theme, right? You're just trying to be supportive of your friends trying to get through World War One, and it is this heavy theme. But I just love how they execute it, and having those. I know it's. I see miniatures for a game like this, and I'm like, well, that's an instant buy. And then my thought process is, oh, maybe it'll get me to actually play this game, which does happen sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. But that's the Grizzled expansion. I don't know what it's called.
Did you ever get a chance? You didn't bring this out. We talked about this, actually. It comes, like, the Grizzled comes up, I want to say, like, almost every episode or two, where you're always like, oh, what is that little tiny World War One game that
that's
Simon
true.
comes out? And so, like, the Grizzled has this thing in our last few episodes in which we always forget it. But you didn't bring this out to play, because this is also the game that your wife also enjoys, and it's like a cooperative game, right?
Yeah, it's like one of the few cooperative games. Wait, it might have been the only cooperative game she's actually liked.
Yeah.
Because it's one that there isn't like an alpha gamer, and not that was an issue, because that's more of an issue with the game group, I think, than the game itself. But it's just, she just doesn't care. She wants to win. She wants to beat people, which I think we talked about before.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The next game I want to talk about is Arboretum, or as I found on an internet thread, Arboretum.
That's not right, is it?
So there's a screenshot that on the back of the card, they missed the R, so it says Arboretum.
Oh, no.
Yeah, dude. It's
Wait,
so
on every
funny.
card then?
I think so.
Of the new printing?
Yeah. Arboretum.
Oh, that hurts my soul. I've played this game. It's fantastic. My sister-in-law randomly has a copy of the Z-Man edition.
Yeah,
so.
the Z-Man green version, right? Like, cause
the one with the correct spelling on the back.
Whoa! Call your fire department.
Shots fired.
Damn. Yeah, Arboretum. This reprint by Renegade Game Studios looks amazing. Unfortunately for their editing department, they are probably going to have to lay down some repercussions, because was that a bad typo and misspell on them. But honestly, that doesn't deter me from wanting to get this game. And I actually pre-ordered the deluxe version, which is going to come in a fancy wooden case, and it's going to have like cool foiled art and things. And I somewhat hope that it has the misspelling on the back, just because it doesn't ruin anything for me. I think it is actually kind of adorable. I do not know why anybody in the world would want to return their game of Arboretum just because they're missing an R. Not that I want to have people going out there and being like, oh yeah, so now I can go ahead and just like not misspell things. Don't get me wrong. Like, this is a very rare occasion.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's a reminder that we're human.
True.
It's okay, guys.
It's true. And like I said, I don't want this to be something that always slips up. But in this case, for Renegade, like, again, they're kind of known for their, stellar productions and the recent games that they're coming off. And for them to be able to kind of have a blunder like this, it's like, it just stinks. But at the same time, like, I just also realized that I'm talking more about the misspelling than the actual game itself. But I'm excited to play this. Again, the illustration, looking at it in the front cover, I did not have the opportunity to play the Z-Man version, but this set collection game by Z-Man / now Renegade Game Studios, totally interested in checking out and playing.
Well, it's fun because it plays great with two, just a small card game, and it brings in set collection, but also spatial placement of your trees on the table, and it's just fantastic. We both really like that.
Excellent.
Both of us being my wife and I read them. So the next one for me is the third in a series by
Matt Leacock.
Crap. Thank you, Matt Leacock.
I'm here to
Forbidden
save
Sky.
you.
Thank you. Forbidden Sky. So there was Forbidden Desert, and then there was
Are you serious? Come on. Come on.
Forbidden Water.
Oh my god, no, you're
Okay, hold
killing
on.
me. You're killing me. You're close though.
Okay. Forbidden Water? Just kidding.
Dude,
I don't remember. What is it?
Forbidden Island.
Oh my gosh, I'm an idiot.
What kind
Okay.
of board game podcaster are you?
And I've played both of them. That's the thing. Like, I've played both of those games.
Yeah.
So I'm not a big fan of co-ops like that. It's just not my thing. But now that I have a kid who I think can appreciate these games, and he loves space, and the space theme gets me, and that freaking spaceship miniature that goes with this game just looks fantastic. So I think this is a game that I can get into. I honestly don't know how it plays. If it plays anything like the other two, I'm fine with that. I think it's a way to get my son into it. Forbidden Sky. But who's publishing it? I'm assuming the same people, right?
Yeah, Game Right,
Yeah.
I think is still publishing it.
Yeah.
How do you
Game
feel?
Right, so-
How do you feel about it not being in a tin case?
That's actually a plus for me as well.
Yeah.
Tins are the worst. The only tin game I have right now is Sushi Go Party Edition.
Yay!
And that game's fantastic, so I'm okay that it's in a tin. But like the lids don't stay on. They get smashed too easily.
True.
You can't put them on a shelf anywhere else, so they just kind of stick out. Oh, there's that other game that's coming out, Junk Orbit. It's in a freaking cylinder tube.
Yeah, that is a really awkward game.
It looks
box.
great. The game itself looks great. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about. Forbidden Sky.
Cool. The next game I want to be able to talk about is a game that is near and dear to my heart because I've been doing a lot of volunteer work for this company, and that is Root by Leader Games. This game knocks it out of the park. They killed it on their Kickstarter fulfillment. They killed it with their production. They killed it with game design. I mean, it was just, I think, 10 to 10s across the board. But again, take my word as a grain of salt, just because I am affiliated with the company just on a volunteer level. I am not paid by them in order to do any of this type of promotion, but I do want to give credit where credit is due. And Root is just a phenomenal game. The people behind that did the art, Kyle Farron, Cole Worley, Worley. It's not Whirl. Worley. Yeah, Worley. Yeah, sorry, it's been way too long on that, but yeah, he's such a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. Patrick Leader connecting it all together. Graphic design department. I've had the opportunity to meet everybody behind that team, which interestingly, I've kind of. What was it that I had read somewhere? But like Leader Games to me is like the microbrewery of board games. Like it's just right, just because it's like they came out with this awesome board game, and they're just a very close knit group of people. It isn't like this whole like manufactured thing, and they just created something really unique. Bringing the coin system, I think, to the general public, which I think scares a lot of people away with board games, right? Yeah. And yeah, just. I don't know. Root, they did so well this year. I'm so proud of everybody. I tweet a lot about them, and just because I'm just, I'm a fanboy. I love what they do. I'm a fan. I try to help out where I can. These dudes are great. They deserve it.
And people are freaking out on social media about this game, which just warms my heart. I love that they're seeing this success. I have a copy staring at me right now. I backed it, and it's just beautiful. This is one of the only expansion boxes I'm having a hard time throwing away.
Mm-hmm, right.
Kyle's work is just so fantastic. And I love the size. Okay, a couple things. I haven't played it yet, but the size of the rule book is just beautiful. Not number of pages, but the actual dimensions of the rule book. I love when games do that. There's been a couple other games that have it that size, and just the size of the box. There is no wasted space in there. I can fit the base game and the expansion in one box, and there's no like extra space. Mm-hmm. It's not giant. It's just, I just love the production value. They killed it with this game. Yeah. I'm very excited to get it to the table.
Yeah, very cool. Root by Leader Games.
For me, there is an expansion out for Giant Killer Robots by Weta Workshop. It's the Sweet and Salty. expansion is 2 new factions, 2 new giant mechs with their little helper mechs. And what's fun about this is that one's purple and one's pink. And I really don't know anything more about the expansion. But here's the thing: I was checking the price for them for pre-order, and the pre-order for this expansion, which has 2 factions, is $130.
Wow.
That is more than I spent on the base game itself, and that's a hard pill for me to swallow, to the point where I'm probably not going to get them.
Wow.
I don't think I played the game enough to warrant paying more than I paid for the base game for just 2 more factions when I haven't even played all the factions multiple times in this copy. But that kind of hurts me a little bit because it looks fantastic. I think that it would be super fun to play. I have a hard time eating that much cash for that game.
This is a first for me. I had no idea that GKR was coming out with an expansion like this. I was
surprised, yeah.
I really want to look into this more, but that is a really tough pill to swallow. Having an expansion with 2 new mechs and decks be more than the base game. That doesn't make any sense to me. There's got to be more to it than we think.
And that's probably true. There is probably more to it, but still, even if there is more, I don't think it's completely doubling your content. I don't know. Honestly, if you like the game a lot, if you play the game a lot, then this is a no-brainer for you. I don't play the game enough to warrant that expansion, but it looks beautiful, and they did a great job on production from the pictures I've seen. But that's the expansion for Giant Killer Robots by Weta Workshop.
By Portal Games, a new hot board game that came out from them is called Detective, a modern crime board game. I think in the last couple of years, we've had Sherlock Holmes. What is it? Detective something or others.
Consulting Detective.
Consulting Detective. Thank you.
Forbidden Water.
I hate you. Yeah, Sherlock Holmes, Forbidden Water. Shoot, now I just lost my whole concentration because I was like trying to think
Detective.
of I was like, Detective, Forbidden Sand, or something silly. I don't know. But anyways, getting back on track, Detective, a modern crime board game, takes the Sherlock Holmes consulting detective format and puts it into a modern age time. And from what I can see and tell, they definitely have a hit on their hands. I am super anxious to give this a try, yet I really feel like in the next couple of months, this will hit the third market, or this people are going to get through this game and they're going to probably end up selling it through BGG. And I think I'm going to hold out. I think I'll honestly be able to obtain a copy before I'll get it new, unless the game does such a great job and they support it well afterwards, because I see this as a new brainer. Oh my gosh. No-brainer. What is going on, Jacob? What is happening? Forbidden Water.
Time.
Yeah. Okay. Detective. Oh man. If they support this game well, if they release little expansion packs, because all it is really is just like a deck of cards that you flip over, very legacy style, like we're seeing in these games. You could put out a case, $10-15 for a card to get like an awesome 2 to 4 hours worth of game time to this. I see people keeping their copy. I think I'm going to hold out. I'm going to hold out for right now, and we'll see. I think if we get a smattering of different, because Portal is Polish, so if they end up announcing like new detective cases at Spiel this year, that's gonna I think reduce my chances as far as getting one. But $50, having the internet be the thing. I've heard that it's just great. You can kind of jump in, jump out. Detective, man. I think Portal did a great job. I think rebounding from First Martians.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. The thing that excites me about this one is the integration of technology.
Yeah.
How you're like, you can feel like you're going into the database to look at stuff. I'm very excited about that one as well.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. That's Detective, a modern crime board game by Portal Games.
The next one for me is a game by Simon and Eric Lane called Victorian Masterminds. Here's the thing about this. I don't know a lot about it, but it looks like it's a different type of game than we've seen from them lately, meaning it's not just a dudes on a map. Now, this does have great miniatures, but it's more of a worker placement, and it just looks very different than what we've seen lately. And it's that difference, it's that change of style that gets me interested. So I'll probably wait and see how reviews are when it comes out and do a bit more research, but that's definitely one that has piqued my interest. That's Victorian Masterminds from Simon. I'd say more, but I honestly have no idea anything else about it.
Again, too, I'm in the same boat. I think I saw a couple pictures of it. Illustration looks great. Typical Simon fare.
Yeah.
I'm color me interested. Not sure I'm ever going to back this one, but when it comes out, I am sure to pay attention to it. That's for sure.
Yeah, totally. I feel like I'm a lot more picky this year with my GenCon interest, just because I don't want a lot of the same. So I think that's what's kind of tipped me off with a lot of these, like things that are a bit different.
Yeah, true. The next game I want to talk about is actually a Target exclusive, and that game is called Villainous. Villainous is a Disney board game where you play as the villains of Disney movies. And pro tip, it doesn't suck.
That's what I've heard.
Right? Like, Villainous has gotten some huge hype over the last couple of weeks, especially at GenCon. Seen it in a bunch of people's halls. I picked up a copy of this game. I fell into the hype really hard. This game was actually the hardest game for me to find. We have I don't know, a numerous amount of Target stores in our area, and I ordered it online. It failed. I had to end up going to some obscure Target that I never go to actually pick up a copy. But when I cracked this guy open and learned how to play, it's for so Disney board games I don't think you really associate into the hobby market, but I really think Villainous is going to be the first game that really proves that an IP like Disney and you playing as a villain is really, is formidable, is something that is worth playing. And it's going to be weird because this also is ripe for expansions. You're able to bring in new villains and new models and stuff like that. Totally worth it. Whether it's going to be the case, I don't think so. Because I swear, the day that Target starts selling expansions to something like that is when pigs fly. But I think pigs fly, dude. I think we might see it with Villainous. I think it might sell enough where it could warrant an expansion. So that'll be exciting.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's like an action. Like, you have a pawn that kind of goes from site to site, and you have a fate deck, and then you have your villain deck, and you're supposed to from this fate deck, each villain has their own asymmetric goal to complete. That is, for a Target game, holy crap.
Oh, yeah.
That is so crazy. We're going to probably talk about this a little bit more in the next segment, but Villainous, Disney, you know what? I don't know. There's not a specific designer. It's actually from a group. But yeah, I would say if you see this at Target, please pick it up. I think you'll be very surprised in a good way. Cool. So
yeah. For me, one that I'm excited about, and once again, purely just by aesthetics and not really knowing anything about it, is Expansity. And the reason this looks really interesting to me is that you are building physical skyscrapers up on a board. It looks kind of like an abstract game, and I don't know anything about it except that it's something that I saw a couple times, and it just, once again, wet my whistle, piqued my interest.
This looks like
I don't know what else to say, but yeah, it looks great.
It looks like Sim Tower. I don't know, Sim City, Sim Tower totally. Kind of thing, right? Yeah. Or it looks like if someone were to be like, "Hey, what's up, Suburbia?" and just made it 3D, I guess. I don't know. Have you played Suburbia?
True. I love Suburbia. It was an early game in my collection as well. I still have it. I haven't played it a lot recently, but I loved that game. I was terrible at it.
Oh, I'm terrible at it too. But next time you play it, just have the Sims soundtrack in the background. Just makes that game so pleasant to play.
That's such a good idea.
Yeah.
Sim 2000 or the original?
We just ended up having just, I think, a mix of different Sim building. Right. So
Sim Ant. Is it the soundtrack to Sim Ant?
No, God's sakes, no. I don't even know if Sim Ant has any music besides like the MIDI like boop 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 boop. boop
That's
boop.
it. And the spider comes in. Yeah. Anyway. All right.
Well, Simant, everybody. Simant.
Simant.
The last game. Oh god, I swear to God, I'm gonna have a dream about ants tonight. Like it is just that weird of an obscure thought that tonight I'm just gonna have like dreams of ants. Moving on. Gizmos. Gizmos by Simon. This game is I almost want to say is like Potion Explosion 2.0.
Totally.
It was like, everybody, we have all of these balls from Potion Explosion. What do we do with it? Make a game that is not Potion Explosion 2.0 in earnest, but have it a game called Gizmos, which I've heard is actually better than Potion Explosion. I think it takes the concept of Potion Explosion more than just matching marbles, and you have like this neat comboing system that comes off of it. And again, I am very much, I think this was announced a couple weeks before GenCon, and it very much tickled my fancy, and I am interested in playing it. I know a friend of mine has pre-ordered it, and I am definitely going to sit down and play his copy. I am not supremely interested in buying Gizmos because I bought Potion Explosion, and while I enjoyed it, it wasn't something that I ended up feeling like I needed to have in my collection. Gizmos fits in that same category.
Yeah. So in this one, instead of multiple tracks of marbles, it's just like a giant funnel that goes into one track, correct?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I actually have another one. I didn't put this in the notes, but I'm talking about another one. It's another Simon. Man, Simon kind of killed it in this.
Simon is
one.
huge. Simon has just been doing great in terms of being like, we're more than just a company that is Kickstarters, right? They're like, we have
balance.
Yeah, I think they give so much crap I think us as the consumer give so much crap to them for like, oh, you're just a miniatures Kickstarter board company, blah blah blah. But they're like, no, check out all this other like really great stuff that we have that we go straight to retail for, right? It's just, I don't know, it's undeserved.
It's
undeserved.
True. And even to that note, even if they were just a mini Kickstarter company, they do such a good job at that I would be completely fine with that. I just love their products. I'm a big old fanboy. Anyway, the game I want to talk about is Wacky Races, which is based off of the Hanna-Barbera IP from mid-century last year or last century, and it just looks fun. They have a couple versions where you have unpainted minis or painted minis, and it's a race game with awesome miniatures, and it reminds me of my childhood and watching those cartoons, and I think it just looks fun.
Nice. I've heard this one as well, too. I can't say that I'm as interested. I wasn't a huge fan of the Hanna-Barbera, I think, cartoons as much. If I see it out there, I'm not going to turn it down, but I'm not. It's cool that they have that collaboration, but it's kind of one I could take it or leave it for me personally.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's awesome. Honestly, super fun GenCon to watch. There wasn't one Fantasy Flight game on our list. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird because I always love their in-flight reports, but nothing really, I mean, other than the expansion to the Game of Thrones board game. I think that's awesome. I love that game. I don't have a copy of it anymore, but I loved the plays I had of it.
Oh, that's really cool because for me, Arkham Horror 3rd Edition was exciting news.
Oh, yeah.
I'm definitely so really cool. In October, they host their Arkham Nights, which is 2 days of where it's just pure H.P. Lovecraft Arkham Horror games, which I'm going to go, and I guess they will have production copies there. So I definitely want to try it. I'm a huge fan of those type of games. So being able to know that there is an actual 3rd edition out there does excite me, and I am interested in checking it out. And I think really there's like some Star Wars Armada stuff, some Star Wars Destiny stuff, like Armada having like the biggest miniature ever, quote unquote, which
that is beautiful. Star Destroyer type thing.
Yeah, exactly. Which they say it's the largest mini ever, but I don't know after seeing that Cthulhu monster statue. I think they have some competition. I mean, I think for Star Wars fans, that is definitely really awesome, but I would very much rather have that Cthulhu statue that one could theoretically put out in their garden.
It's a gnome.
Yeah, it's like
Cthulhu gnome.
Cthulhu gnome.
Oh, that's great.
But I think I want to talk about, is it Keystone?
Yeah. Oh, Keystone. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, is it Keystone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Keystone. Yeah.
This is the unique card game that every single deck you buy is unique. No other deck in the world technically will have that exact same deck. And basically you open it and you fight, and essentially if you end up having like an overpowered deck, there's this balancing system where you end up drawing less cards in an effort to kind of tone down the deck, which is like, okay, I don't know. For me, as a casual player, the idea of hunting for rarities and stuff has its moments, but in essence, it's kind of burns out and it gets expensive. So being able to have something kind of competitive like this, I think, and it's also like, it's extremely streamlined to the point where it was like, okay, you have Magic, then they're like, here's Hearthstone.
Yeah,
Hearthstone.
seriously.
And now it's just like, now Keystone is even more simpler, to the point where it's like, one of these days, like, there's just going to be a card game where it's just like, you literally have the deck as your hand and you just like throw them all out. And you're just like, that's the game. Like,
see how many paper cuts, whoever gets the most paper cuts loses.
Yeah, it'll just be a point where there's literally the game, there won't be anything to the game anymore. I swear to God.
It's interesting, though. I think this might find the balance between casual and competitive. I'm going to put in $10 for a deck and just try it out and see what it's like. And if I like it, maybe in a couple months I'll put in another. I don't know who I'd play it with, but I think it's interesting enough that it will get me to buy one deck. And maybe if they get enough people like that, and maybe it'll die out. But I mean, Richard Garfield, that's interesting.
Yeah. I think that's what everybody is at right now. I think they're intrigued enough that they will throw down $10, and it's almost like gambling for winning.
Totally.
I don't know. But anyways,
it's like the board game version of loot boxes.
Oh, damn. We're there yet. We're at that point, aren't we?
Shots fired.
Wow.
Okay, awesome. That's exciting. That is GenCon from this year.
GenCon!
Excited to see what becomes the hottest, or like what actually stands out from it. That's cool.
I want to talk about a game called The Game.
That's fun.
That's
that
it.
Like
The
a fun
end.
game.
The end. The game called The Game, which is infinitely hard to search on the internet for, because I think The Game is the worst board game name in the history of all games.
It really is.
It is. It's really tough. For those that don't know what I am talking about, this is a card game designed by Stefan Bendorf. I'm going to talk about the new version today, and that is designed. Not designed, illustrated by Kwanchai Moria and distributed by Pandasaurus Games. These guys you may have recognized also published or got to the state Rewind. Pandasaurus Games also brought stateside The Mind, which is one of my most favorite card games of all time. And now they enlisted the talents of Kwanchai in order to get the game from its awful, like, death-inspired illustration and design into a much more fun, lighthearted version of the game that I actually like so much better. So to quickly talk about the game, it is a game where you start by having 2 1s and 2 100s placed in front of you, and then you have upwards of, I don't know, you could play solo, or you can play, I don't know, an infinite amount of people, theoretically, but probably 8 is going to be the amount that fits well for everyone. And what you're going to be doing is you're going to be playing at least 2 cards from your hand, going either in sequential order from 1 to 100 or from 100 to 1. And so preferably what you want to be able to do is have your 98, 97, 96 and be able to top deck all the other cards that fit in that order, which would be nice, but obviously you shuffle them up and there's going to be liberties and there's going to be huge number gaps in order for you to be able to make some tough choices as far as, do I really want to place this 50 going upwards or downwards? There's a unique, I think, twist to this whole game, though, is that when you start playing these cards either up or down, if you're able to play a card that is exactly 10 more or 10 less, you can actually jump back or forth that amount. So let's say, for instance, if you're going up and you play the last card as a 35, if you have a 45 in your hand, you can play that card and you can actually play, or no, reverse that. if you're working down and you have the last card is a 55 and you have a 65 in your hand, you can play a 65, essentially reversing the order from 55 to 65 and play down from 65. So that way it makes it easier for you to be able to have someone else have a card less than 65, which I think accounts for the ability of like, okay, you're not going to be in sequential order. And likewise, when you work from the bottom up, so from 1 to 100. So if, let's say, for instance, if you have a 35 and in your hand there's a 25, you can play that 25, essentially kind of rolling you back that way. And the objective is to clear your hands and deck of all the cards, in that you would hopefully play all 100 cards onto the board, which is infinitely impossible, but I think it theoretically can be done. And so nothing, I think, game-wise has changed with this new version, except for the artwork. And I just have to say that the game just looks so much better with his artwork on it. There's like there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just like, they're like, hey, Quanshai, do you have some like cool, fun, colorful doodles? Like 10 of them that you can expand across, like 10 cards. And he made them work, and it looks beautiful. It looks great. I think it's a lot more appealing. I think it's going to gather a much better audience. The game, I think, had this like whole death theme to it, which made absolutely zero sense to me. I think especially just at a consumer level, when they look at it, it's like, why is the game about death and skulls when it's just about ordering cards? It did not make any sense to me at all. But I enjoyed this game. It's a fun game. I like the Mind better. But the game is really, I think, a unique, fun twist on your simple 1 through 100 deck card games, and I enjoy it. I recommend checking it out.
That's cool. Actually, I was going to ask if you like the Mind better, and you do, and that's really interesting, because I didn't realize there were such close concepts to each other. But that's really. I'm still waiting for my copy of the Mind, by the way. I don't know I think it got held up somewhere, but I'm excited for the Mind and the game, because that's the one we were talking about. The game.
What was I going to say? Oh, yes. 2 different designers, and interestingly enough, people were buying copies of the game and just basically transforming it as a prototype or like a makeshift, version of
the Mind.
The Mind, because you
Isn't
just
that kind of a slap in the face, though.
Kind of. But what are you gonna do? What you gonna do? People want what they want. They're gonna buy the Mind. I mean, it's still still a sale for the game. Now true. With the Mind coming out, they can just revert their copies or whatever have you. So, whoa, now.
I'm okay.
Whoa.
I hit the mic. I'm okay.
I can confirm. I am watching him on video.
I'm alive. So is that the same publisher as the Mind, right?
Yep.
Is it?
Pandasaurus.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yep.
That's interesting.
Yep. Pandasaurus was able to get that, and like Quinto, and they really latched on to these really kind of unique games that were overseas and are bringing them over stateside, and it's paying off for them. So kudos on Pandasaurus for those acquisitions.
This sounds like a fun game. The game. So I finally got to play a game that I've wanted to for years. It's been in my collection. It's been on what I call... It's been what I call a game of shame. It's a game that I have not played, but I have purchased, and I've even purchased an expansion for it without having played it. And that game is Xia, Legends of a Drift System, originally published in 2014. I bought it in 2016. This is designed by Cody Miller. He self-published it through Kickstarter back then. Art was also by him and Steve, quote-unquote, Cool Hand Tyler, because I don't think Cool Hand is actually his birth-given middle name. And your boy, Peter Woken, who I did not know did any artwork on this game.
My boy.
Your boy.
My boy.
And then, like I was saying, self-published by Far Off Games, which was basically just Cody Miller. And this is like the perfect Kickstarter type game. This dude had this idea, spent so much effort designing it, and put it out, and people accepted it into their homes by giving him thousands of dollars. And this game is absolutely fun to play. This is a space sandbox game, and you win by getting X amount of points. It depends how long you would want to play. We played a 10-point game, and it took us probably about 2 hours with a 3-player game. But essentially just flying around these pre-painted ships around a board, and you could be a pirate by killing other people. You could be a trader by buying goods and selling goods for a profit. You can go on missions. You can go exploring. You can mine goods. You can do all these things, and you're exploring around. And this is the Ameritrash of all Ameritrash games for me, because there's a lot of dice chucking and rolling to see what happens, but it just creates great experiences. There's different types of things you interact with, like asteroids or planets or nebulas, things like that. And like if you run into a bunch of debris and you go into a space, you roll a d20. If it's a 1, 2, or 3, you're dead. Anything else, you're totally fine. So you're like, oh, this is totally easy. But it happened twice that we both just exploded and ran into some debris. And it's a hilarious moment, right? This is not a deep strategic game. It's a game where you just set it out. It's actually pretty easy to get into. There are a lot of rules, but once you start playing, it just kind of makes sense. But it is kind of intimidating at first to teach and play this game. I absolutely loved it. The friends I played it with enjoyed it as well. I want to play this game more and just kind of enjoy myself while playing with it. The ships are fun. They're pre-painted. You can buy better ships. There's 3 levels of ships, and they get bigger as you buy them. There's an expansion that brings in other ships, that brings in asteroids and comets and other tiles and an economy board to kind of change the trading up a bit. And it's just fun. It's just kind of this quintessential idea of having a fun time around a table. You've played this game, right?
Yep, I did. And I think I would agree with the majority of your sentiment towards that game. I think I even said to you on Twitter that it was probably one of my most favorite 4X games.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't come out to the table often, but when I played it, it definitely made 4X. I think that game is what made me understand the joy of 4X so much.
Does it have all 4Xs?
Yeah, I think
Crap,
so.
I don't even know if I can name them. Extrapolate? Nope.
No.
Exonerate? Nope.
Oh my God.
What? Okay, there's exterminate.
Exterminate, explore.
Explore.
Yep.
ExxonMobil? Oh, what is it?
ExxonMobil? What the shit?
Exterminate. Expand.
Yep, expand and X-trade.
That's so stupid.
I know, it is so dumb.
But economy.
Yeah,
what is it? What's the fourth one?
I don't care. I don't know.
Anyway, it's got them all, and they're all fantastic.
Okay, I'm going to tell you something that I just realized when you were describing Zaya that I think it's going to blow your mind. All right, you ready?
Okay, all right. Yeah.
90% of what you described is Seafall.
What?
Yeah. Aside from the legacy components, like Seafall does exactly what you're talking about in this game.
So why do people not like Seafall?
I don't know, man.
Did you play Seafall?
Because it's... Yeah, I did. I played like 15 games of it.
Wow.
I would say, yeah, I would definitely say that if you re-listen back to what you said, like looking at a picture of Seafall, I think you'd be like, I think you could almost like, you could take it out.
That's
and
funny.
Yeah.
Did you like, which one did you like more?
I like Zaya more, man. It's
because it's spaceships.
Well, okay, because I think I was actually rereading some of this. I just think that Seafall maybe wasn't play tested enough. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I can, it's hard to say. I'm not gonna. I think that's just only based upon what I've read on the internet, which of course is the golden rule of everything, right? And is the one-stop shop of all truth that is to be said. It's hard to say, right? But really, in terms, like in Seafall, again, it has that very similar aspect of like you can be this adventurer that goes out and explores and kind of starts raiding things and attacks other players, or you could like go and start selling goods and stuff like that. And what's really cool about Zaya 2 is that I think you level up in that game, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So
well, the ship can get better, a level 1, 2, or 3 ship.
No, I think you as a player can have different ranks, or is it like notoriety? Isn't it?
Yes, yeah. There are fame cards that come out from the point track, and you can get titles which give you abilities.
Right, exactly. So that's really cool too. But like I said, I really think that Zaya and Seafall have a lot in common, and I think Zaya does it better. And I'm now really excited for Zaya Legacy.
Wait, what? Oh, you're just making that up.
Yeah, I'm just making that up.
I got real excited real quick.
Also, yeah, but you're right though that so we had a quote unquote cheat sheet for this game, and I swear it was like in 2-point font to fit everything
I know
on a
it's
single page.
I saw that file on BGG. It's just like this.
Oh, you
this
saw
isn't
that
a
file?
Cheat. Yeah, this isn't a cheat sheet. Like this needs to be printed on like a 24x36 poster in order for it to work.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I didn't teach every rule of the game. I taught things as they came up, and it can be done like that because it's not a game you take too seriously. You're flying a spaceship around and buying and selling things and shooting at each other. Like you can't take it that seriously. But what was fun is we played a 10-point game, and my buddy and I were at 7 points, so pretty close. And then our other buddy was at 5 points, and in like 2 turns he shot up and won the game. And it was just this great comeback story. And my buddy blew up a couple times just thinking he wouldn't. It was just fun. It was fun to see the board expand. It was fun to level up your ship. It's honestly, I kind of never want to play Merchants of Venus again.
Whoa, that is some spit hot fire with that.
I know,
statement.
and I love that game, but I don't know. Honestly, I do like the buying and selling in Merchants of Venus better. Merchants of Venus. Merchants of Venus.
Merchants of Venus. I think there's something about the tile laying in that game and how you explore that is really easy and fun to do. Like there isn't anything too complicated, I think, with the movement and exploring that thing. And weirdly enough, I really liked how you needed to dock into a planet with like a port. So there's like a shield that was like surrounding the planet. So you have to like kind of navigate like as if you were like really kind of coming in and, you know, making communications with that planet to, you know, dock and port in and stuff like that. That's really neat. It's just like there was something about that whole design of specifically that 1X of exploring that I really liked, because I think I really found myself doing that too. And it was like, you know, there's like different places where there's, you know, the asteroids and there's like the different like nebulous clouds that you could expand and go into. And it was all pretty relatively simple and fun. Like they didn't like overcomplicate it at all. It's just like, yeah, it's like super easy and extremely thematic. Yeah, that I don't feel there is that need for like super complexity to it all. So that I think Zaya nailed that big time. So, and
there's this idea of blind jumping, because if you explore normally, it'll end your movement. And so you're exploring on the end of the board, and it ends your movement, and you have to kind of spend more energy to move if you want. Or you can blind jump and just kind of see where you land on the new tile. And there's one tile that's just a giant star, the Zaya star itself. And if you land in it, you explode and you die. And the odds of that happening, there's only one of those tiles, and it happened in our game. And it was the happiest moment I've had in a long time.
We know that what's really funny about that too is like if there's a big giant Zaya star and like you don't see it until it's too late, it's just like, what kind of pilot are you?
You kind of deserve it at that point.
Yeah, at that point it's just like, oh, there's a big giant star in front of me. Let's just put this up to 10 and just shoot right through it.
One thing I love about this game are the what do they call the pieces you put on your board? The outfits. So there are different pieces you put on your little player board that represents your ships. And these outfits are the pieces of your ship, like your engines, your missiles, your shields, and something. Anyway, but these actually are Tetris-style pieces that you're putting on your board, and they take up spots. And you're using action markers to activate those specific parts. Like if you want to move, you activate your engines. If you want to shoot, you activate your missiles. If you want to defend, you activate your shields, type thing. And it's just this really clever way of managing your energy and your ship itself. When you get a bigger or better ship, it's bigger so it can hold more things. There's different levels of these pieces. It's just, man, I want to play this game again.
Is that like a little micro galaxy trucker going on in there?
No, because you don't really lose pieces. I mean,
well,
if you
just
take damage,
just building it, right?
Oh yeah, sure.
Like like that's why I said micro galaxy trucker. Not that it like encompasses the full game, but the whole aspect that you're kind of outfitting the ship with all these different Tetris pieces, and you know, it doesn't take too much, but at least it gives that ship a little bit of personality to how you would want to be able to see it fit. So, yeah.
Well, and it's clever because if you take damage and the damage goes on your outfits, that they become weaker. Each outfit correlates with a die, either like D6 all the way up to D20. But it subtracts 1 from the result, just kind of showing that it's been damaged. It's super clever. It doesn't overcomplicate things like you're saying. I love it.
Zaya.
Legends of a Drift System by Cody Miller.
Well, Far Off Games. Don't forget his publisher, Far Off Games.
Well, let's bring this one to a close. Let's wrap this sucker up. Let's blow this popsicle joint.
What's the title of this episode?
The Pseudo Musical. I have no idea.
Shoot. It's going to be through one of my mispronunciations, I feel like.
Episode 6. Forbidden Water.
Yeah, Forbidden Water. Oh, yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
Find us on social media. I am at The Gamer Curator on Twitter.
I am RyGuy314 on Twitter.
And we, mostly Ryan right now, are... what's our...
On the tweeters.
On the Twitters.
On
Rolling
the
Doubles.
No, Roll Doubles.
Roll Doubles. Gosh dang it.
At Roll Doubles.
At Roll Doubles.
Yeah, it's again too. We said this 2 weeks ago. It's like, oh, we're gonna do just such a great effort in promoting. Not happening. It's gonna happen. It's
gonna happen.
It'll happen. Trust us, folks. There will be.
This is a learning process.
It's like, have you ever tried going full-time social media mode on 2 accounts?
It's rough.
It gets boring.
I know, and I'm going to start spinning up a third one that focuses more on my career, too.
Dude, what is going on?
That's the smart thing to do. But this has been great. I feel like we talked about good games, and we're fun to listen to. So tell your friends that. Tell your friends that we're fun to listen to, dang it.
Yeah, we're on Facebook. We're on YouTubers. We're on the Twitters. We're on everything. We're not on Instagram, though. Do we want to do an Instagram account?
I don't really care that much.
Yeah.
I have my own. Hey, I'm on Instagram at The Gamer Curator. Look at pictures of games we play.
Oh, are you? Oh, I think I follow your personal account.
Oh, yeah, I've got a couple. Don't follow my personal account. I'm not going to accept you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. I thought I had no idea that
you
you're
yourself
on.
can. You, the 12 listeners we have, I'm not going to accept you unless I know you personally.
I always have. I've tried to have a rule. Specifically, you actually are the exception to the rule that I will never friend somebody on Facebook that I never met.
Yeah. So I should go a step further. If I haven't interacted with you personally in a year, you're out. Which backfires sometimes. No, it totally backfires because I do it to family too, by the way. This is not just
really
random people.
Okay, I was like maybe with friends, sure. But
no,
with
I'm
family.
a bad person. I'm not a great person on social media. I'm very picky.
Well, I don't know. You kind of have.
I don't know.
Social media these days, we've been in the game for so long that it's like at this point we're just really those crotchety old people that are like, back in my day, we used to actually post on people's walls.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just whatever, man. But anyways, look out for these episodes every other Monday. We've been doing good on that.
We have exciting stuff coming up, guys.
Yes.
Stuff that we don't want to announce until it's official. But this little podcast is just going to keep chugging up that hill.
The little podcast that could.
The little podcast that could.
Yep. Yeah. There will be, I think next episode, we're really trying to shoot for something really exciting. So when we can officially announce that, we will. And also a couple episodes from now too, we have something in the books and works as well too, which has been really fun and exciting to work on. And beyond that, again, YouTube, check out our segments. I'll try to be able to get those all segmented out. So if you want to see a specific game, you can go ahead and just listen to that specific segment. Again, iTunes, Google Play, YouTube. Those are our 3 primary ways to get in contact with us and to watch our shows. Leave us give us those likes, give us those comments, give us those little micro boosts of enthusiasm that makes us continue to do what we want to do and spreads the word and love and joy of Roll Doubles, the podcast in which 2 unlikely fellows find each other on Twitter and enjoy themselves every other 2 weeks.
Tale as old as time.
Oh man, we do need to have a musical
Strong
episode.
as it may be.
You have a really nice singing voice.
It's totally fake. I don't know how to sing.
Well, you convinced me.
Yeah, I fooled a lot of people. All right. Have fun, everyone. Goodbye.
Good night.
Thanks for listening. Music intro is Siva Play by Fantastic Plastic Machine, and music bumpers were created by myself using Apple Loops and GarageBand for iOS. Join us next week as we forget even more board game titles on another wonderfully exciting episode of Rolling Doubles Podcast.